Hey Angela, Josh here. Okay, so I figured I'd just respond to this with video because I don't want to write a super long email. You don't want to read a super long email. Nobody wants to do that. These are really good questions. Yeah, I got a lot of thoughts about all these. So let's just start with the first one. So, what's something that I thought I needed to do? Style, posting frequency, niche choice that turned out to be not true. I, all of it, every single thing you mentioned, and way, way more. Okay, style. Our first year or two was just spent just blatantly copying the other successful creator or creators out there at the time. And what I didn't realize was that that was the single most detrimental thing to our channel growth, was doing exactly that. We knew immediately. We knew right when we started, we had this idea in our head of okay, we want to do these travel videos that are accessible to anyone, that anyone could go out and do these same things on a budget, like more or less anyone. And we wanted it to represent the style of travel that was most honest to us, which is just kind of running around from place to place, more or less as fast as we can, trying to see all the cool things and then just stringing a super long trip together. We knew that. Day one, before we even started, we knew that. But then we looked out at all the other successful creators and we saw what they were doing and we're like, oh, well, they're doing something that's really different than that. Some of them are really luxury and some of them are doing all sorts of fancy stuff and some of them are doing super voiceover heavy things and some of them are just showing off their bodies to a much higher degree than we are. And we saw what everyone else was doing, and stupidly we just decided to try copying them as often as we could, as fast as we could, as hard as we could. And what that led us to do, what that led us to be, was just kind of like a crappy photocopy of what else was going on out in the travel world. And that led us to mediocrity. Not even to mediocrity, to just hundreds of views per video for a year and a half. To just nobody caring about the things that we were making. And I think a lot of that was our whole approach of just this huge insecurity inside of us of we don't know what we're doing. We're just going to try everything and anything. And that showed, and the viewer would watch it and they'd watch one thing and then the next thing would be totally different and then the next thing would be totally different. And the only thought that you can have after witnessing something like that is these guys have no fucking idea what they're doing. And that's just not a very attractive thing for a viewer. It's not a very attractive thing. There has to be some level of intentionality to it. And the fact that we had already solved exactly what our end format was going to be before we even started, but just this insecurity inside of us made us question it. I mean, I think that tells the whole story. We had such a clear idea of the thing we wanted to do, but we had such a massive skill gap between what we were capable of making and then what we saw in our heads. And it took us years and years and years to close that skill gap until we were actually good enough. But the core of it, the heart of it, we knew what to do the entire time. We just didn't do it because we were scared, because we didn't think anybody would watch. And posting frequency, talk about the worst possible advice that everyone gives, which is just saying be consistent, which to a creator just means publish all the time. Never not be publishing. You got to publish 3 times a week, or you got to publish 15-minute videos 2 times a week, or once. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. None of that stuff matters. People are not watching YouTube like they're watching TV. They're not. They're going to turn on their thing, which they probably do every single day, and your video is going to be there or it's not going to be there. And when it is there, hopefully they'll be excited to watch it. And when it's not there, they're just going to watch other people. And posting Sunday at 2 p.m. or whatever, none of that stuff made no difference at all. Zero difference at all. In fact, towards the end, when we were most successful, and maybe this was just our skill gap had finally caught up over time, maybe we're biased, but at the end, all that we were doing was putting out one video every 2.5 months, and it was 2 hours long. I mean, if you're talking about this concept of needing to keep a posting schedule, of needing to post consistently, was the most mentally and emotionally damaging advice that we kept getting from people over and over again. I can't think of a more useless, a more damaging, a more frustrating piece of advice that everyone gives you. Do not have to post consistently. Don't just shove stuff out into the world because you feel like you have to post every single Tuesday. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If your stuff is good, people's going to watch it. If your stuff isn't good, they're not going to watch it. And it took us forever to learn this, because what we had turned into our head of be consistent, what we had changed that advice into was just always be posting all the time, or else people are going to forget about us. And everyone's going to hate us, and they're going to be mad at us, and we're never going to get anywhere in this world. And that turned into us just always feeling like we were behind on a video. For 5 years straight, we felt constantly that we needed to be getting a video out and that we were behind. And that's because of this posting frequency stuff. Because it's so, it depends on a million different variables. It just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Don't even think about it. Truly don't even think about it. Niche choice. I think this goes back to that first answer. Our niche choice was, we knew it right away. We knew what was close to our hearts immediately before we started micro-analyzing what all of the rest of the YouTubing travel community was doing. Before we got our heads way into the game, we knew the answer to this question of what our niche was going to be, more or less. We just had to close that skill gap. And I know that's frustrating to hear, because how do you close the skill gap? The only answer to that is you just keep making stuff. You just keep making stuff until it looks like the image that you have in your head. And still, even that last video that we put out, we took forever on that thing. Even that, I watch it and I'm like, I would change like 25 things. Even I look back at that and I'm a little disappointed with how it came out. And I think it was our best, like, most complete video that we'd ever made. But still, this niche choice thing, like, I don't know. It sounds like you're in the place now where we were for a really long time, where you're trying to optimize based on what you're seeing, like, succeeding out in the world. And I can tell you with absolute certainty on YouTube that doing things in that direction, through that lens of like, hey, what's working? I'm going to try to replicate it, is the most surefire way to fail out here. Because you're not offering anything new. If you do that, you're not offering anything new. And what does everyone on YouTube want to see? Something that they haven't seen before. That's what everybody wants. It has to be good, it has to be interesting, it has to be conceptually kind of novel in some way. So if you're looking at these things of like, okay, what style is working right now? If you ever think of like what's working on YouTube, you're going down the wrong hole. I promise you, we tried this. I built a machine learning algorithm that pulled in every single other major travel creator's stuff and used the YouTube API to scrape like tens of thousands of travel YouTube videos, and then took that data set and ran it across a bunch of different like random forest algorithms and a bunch of other things to try to pull out like scientifically what the best possible travel YouTube video is. And we made a couple of those, and holy shit, did those bomb. Those did the worst out of anything we've ever done, because it's just, that's not how YouTube works. It's not how art works. Even, I don't know, it's kind of heavy-handed to call anything that I ever made was art, but it's like, it just, you're playing the wrong game, is what I'm trying to say. You're playing the wrong game. On YouTube, there's so much stuff out there that you have to make something that's kind of new, something that's kind of novel. You got to make something that people haven't seen yet. And to overanalyze what everybody else is doing in the market is just, we tried it. We tried it as hard as we possibly could for years on end, analyzing what the other stuff in the travel and adjacent spaces were doing, and it just led us frickin' nowhere. But then the moment, finally, when we just like took that off and started thinking for ourselves and said, okay, what do we want to make? We tried like 25 different styles of videos that we wanted to make until one of them stuck. But all of them had to come from our head. all of them had to come from in here. They couldn't come from some sort of spreadsheet analysis of some stuff out there. It had to come from us. So I would say the other thing that we thought way too hard about that absolutely there was no right answer to is thumbnails. It's such a rabbit hole, and there's so much bad information. In fact, it's all bad information. Let me give you a perfect anecdote here. We took a ludicrously expensive, actually 3, but this one in particular was incredibly expensive, teach you how to do YouTube real good course made for professional creators. And they'd only let you into this one if you had a whole bunch of subscribers and a bunch of views. So it was like really seasoned creators who had been doing it for years at a time. And I thought it'd be fun to overhaul every single one of our thumbnails for our 3 days in series. And this was kind of towards the end. So I made like 100 thumbnails over a period of, I don't know, maybe like 2 months. For every single, just a bunch of them for every single one of our videos, and then ran an ABC test. And we polled the community out there, all these creators plus the people teaching. There were a few of the best thumbnail creators in the game. And we ran this test to basically say, like, based on which of these thumbnails, which one do you think is going to do best? And do you think it's going to make the traffic go up, down, or stay the same? Basic question. And across all of our 25 videos, each with ABC thumbnails, so 75 total, the person who got the most right got 8 out of 25 correct. 8. 8 total. If you want to percentage that, that's what, 20-something%, maybe 30. So it just, there's no right answer. My babbling is what I'm saying here, is that there is no right answer to thumbnails. There's no best thumbnail. There's no optimizing a thumbnail. There's no orange is better than blue. There's no this font is better than that font. If you're even thinking about any of that, it doesn't matter. I can promise you, and nobody knows the answer. And that's because a thumbnail is in itself art. Right? So it would be like looking at movie posters, And if there was one best style of movie poster, every single movie poster for every movie ever would look the exact same. They don't. All of them look totally different. Some of them are shockingly, wildly different than the rest of them. It grabs your attention, but you don't know what it's about. But some of them look so AI generated that just all of them kind of look the same, but all of them can work for different reasons, and some of them just don't work for different reasons. There are some consistencies, like if you, for example, were to make a movie poster for the next Marvel movie, you'd probably expect it to look like, hey, here's like a bunch of little heads on a screen, and maybe it's like a dark blue and black sort of spacey theme with some sparkly stuff and some lasers going across, right? Like that might be what you expect to see from that. And then as a viewer, if you have no idea what this movie's about, you would probably be able to look at that movie poster from like 200 feet away and be like, that's the movie poster for the next Marvel movie. Now I know the next Marvel movie's coming out. So there are small consistencies that you can make and use to your advantage. Like if you're making a horror film, you're probably going to use some reds in it and some blood splatters, and maybe it's like a scared person's face and they're in black and white, right? Like there's some things that you can use over and over to help people identify the genre of the thing that you're making really fast. But there's no best. There's no best. So to be paying for courses and to be looking for things that claim to have the answers for thumbnail, title, for niche, for length of video, for posting schedule, for any of that, just it can't be taught. No one can tell you what it is, because the thing you're making has to be new, has to be specific, has to be true to you. And that means that for all those things, nobody else can tell you. Nobody else can tell you. Okay, for your videos, which videos worked and which didn't? The ones that worked were our 3 days in videos. Then once we started making those over and over. What didn't work? Literally all of our other videos. And what separated the two? We kept making the same thing over and over once we found something that worked. That was it. That's it. And then sometimes even some of those videos didn't work. But our floor for failure had moved up so significantly that, like, previously our failures would get like 150 views. And now once our 3 days in videos were in, since we had this like built-in format that we could repeat over and over and people liked it, our floor for failure was like 100,000 views. And then our upside of that was like 2 million views plus was like the biggest that could get. And we had just increased our surface area for luck by doing it that way. Are there any common mistakes you see new creators reinforcing in each other that a community should actively counter? None of us are competing with each other. And if you think that you are competing with each other, that just means you're like kind of copying each other's stuff, or both of you were copying off the same, genesis of the other person. So that is a huge common mistake, is feeling like there's one right way to do this, and that one person has the right answer and one person doesn't, because it's just not like that. The other, I would say the other like biggest mistake that I see people making is taking the response to your video too personally. The people who watch your stuff online, they have zero skin in the game. None of it. Yeah, it's like, what's the best way to like describe this? Okay, so imagine you're watching a Netflix film, right? And you're watching it and you get like 10 or 15 minutes in and you're like, this kind of sucks. This movie is not doing it. There's nothing good happening here. I'm so bored. A normal person, like a normal human being, would just turn the movie off and then just watch something else or go and do something else. That's what they would do. That's what almost everybody would do. And you got to think in your head what the type of person is who, when they watch a Netflix movie that doesn't do well or doesn't feel good for them to watch, that their next response, the next thing that they do, is to go onto some internet forum and write like 3 or 4 paragraphs just blasting the movie, the director, the actor in it, And if you think about it, if you put yourself in the mindset of that person, it's hard not to have a little bit of empathy for them. To be that angry about something they didn't make, something they have no skin in the game of, something that, took 10 to 15 minutes out of their life and they just didn't happen to like it. And then they spent the next hour to 2 hours crafting this amazingly angry response to what they were watching. And then to think about the same person on YouTube who watches something that like 1 or 2 people made, and then do that same thing, just like light this creator's house on fire because they watched 5 minutes of a video and they didn't like it. Like, empathy is the only right response to that. It really is. That's such a sad place for anyone to be. Maybe it's their only outlet, and maybe they just like writing angry critical reviews, and that's fine. That's fine. It's your job to just not take any of that personally and just sort of think about it from their perspective. If truly, I can't imagine a travel creator truly making something so bad that it ruins somebody else's day. Like at the worst, you're like going to Thailand and you like made the video a little more boring than it should have been. Or you like missed out on something that maybe they wanted to see. Okay? Again, neither of these things are your fault. It's just you're learning, you're trying, things are happening. and the response to that, your response to that being to just scream at this person who's literally made something free for you to watch. Empathy is the only response to that. It's the only possible response. I know it can be hard to turn off that filter, to ignore that stuff. Believe me, we've had some of the worst, most awful comments, and the bigger you get, the more awful these comments are going to get, and the more pointed they're going to get, and the more people are going to know about you, and the more successful you become in this game, the thicker your skin's going to have to be, and the worse people are going to be to you, because they're going to assume you're not reading any of it, and that they can just take all their negativity and just shove it in your direction, and nothing bad will happen to them, because it won't. So I think that's the 2 biggest mistakes. If you listen to the audience too much, you will get so far off course that you won't even recognize yourself or the stuff you're making anymore. And I can't imagine anything sadder than that. Okay, that was the questions. I yapped for 20 minutes. My bad. Okay. Hopefully this stuff was helpful. If you got any more questions, send them on over. I love what you're doing. This community seems really cool. I just took a look through the subreddit a little bit ago. You guys seem really cool and really supportive, and I love that. Love to see it. This travel space is like a small, tight-knit community of people who, like really, really share a common love for something really beautiful. And the fact that you're like out there bringing them all together it's a big deal. It's a big deal. Okay. Yes. That's all I got to say. Bye.